I am a Pakistani spy. I break through in enemy's tank training camp. Already got classified informations from camp. Trying to steal files from commander office. If you have not watched old videos, please go and check old videos and channel to know whole story. How I came across borders and reached army headquarters. Let's move towards story. All my conversations with the dudes were in English. He was impressed by my personality, dress, and nifty English, or even the look of it. He ordered a clerk in his office in front of me to send my sample to Anchor, and then told me that it is just a formality that the samples are sent for use in Anchor. I can decide without sending you to the anchorage. And as for your boredom, you will be my guest tomorrow evening, and I will take you to the ground with the officer. I thanked Colonel Gupta for this and took his permission to go to the clerks in his office. Chatted with Shyam for a while. He told that Gupta has ordered to send you to Simple Langar. I told him that I am coming to meet him. Now, since we have to work early, take me to the camp commandant's office. My excuse for going there was that since the samples was going to Langar, it might be used there today or tomorrow. Those living in the camp can't complain about the food in the directly to Anchor, but can do it to the commandant through their senior, and after some time of the camp commandant, the office investigates the complaint. It is an essential part of military discipline. Shyam took me to the camp commandant's office. I wanted to meet Ashok. Ashok saw me. I saw a satisfaction on his face. He told me right in the eyes that the work was done. There was a formal discussion. Shyam said to another clerk, "Their samples are being sent to Anchor today. Any complaint comes from there, let me know." This second clerk was the same one who had come last night with Shyam and Ashok. When we started returning from there, we suddenly came face to face with the camp commandant. Shyam salutes him. He looked at me questioningly, so I went ahead and introduced myself. I told the reason for coming Ahmednagar and said that my tea samples will be sent to Langar today. We both were talking in English. The colonel, who wore red collars and was appointed to the post of camp commandant, was not happy to see me with a mere clerk, and said that if you are coming to see me, come to my office. I signaled to Shyam and followed the colonel into his office. The office was very well decorated. The colonel asked me to sit down. I wanted to impress the colonel as well. His name was Malhotra with initials. I told him that, "Colonel, I have come here twice to meet you, but you were not in the office. My tea has reached Langar from a DOS, office for mate. In principle, I should have met you first, because you are in charge of the entire camp, and the officers and men living in it, and their complete care is your responsibility. I took an ADOS clerk with me to come to your office, because I knew that I have to apply to come to the office and meet you, since I am staying here in a hotel, and can't stay here for long. So I used this shortcut." With that, I presented my business card to the colonel. The weather was still very hot. The heat of the campground was reduced by the air conditioner in the room. The colonel was also cold. When I again apologized for coming unscheduled, the colonel had completely cooled down. He asked me whether I would like tea or coffee. I said tea, provided you make tea from my tea sample. There were 2 mail packets in my briefcase. I took out both of them and placed them on the table. The colonel called his Batman and asked him to make the tea I had given him. After a while, the tea was ready. The colonel took a sip of tea and asked what its price was. I told the price. After finishing the cup of tea, he called the anchor in charge on the internal phone and said that I have drunk the tea that is coming to you today, and I like it very much. I thanked him. Talked here and there for a few moments. Then I asked permission from him, and while walking said that tomorrow I'm coming to officer ground along with Colonel Gupta. Hope to meet you there. Colonel Malhotra nodded and smiled, and said, "Young man, you look like an officer, so try to remain among officers." I thanked him again. The colonel suddenly thought of something and told me that my transport will drop you to the hotel. Within 10 minutes, a jeep stopped in front of the office, and I reached my hotel. What do Colonel Malhotra and Colonel Gupta know? That the work that the clerks in their offices were doing for me was not done by living among the officers. After coming to the hotel, I had my food and got lost in the thoughts of the file I got from Ashok. At night, around PM, Ashok called me from the reception. I asked him to come to the room. He was in civilian clothes and had one bag in his hand. It was a handbag. I put last night's leftovers wine in front of him. He was a bit nervous. He poured half a glass of wine without adding water. After opening the handbag, he took out 2 files and gave them to me and said that one file contains the details of the regiments coming in the last 8 months and their return after the training, and the other file contains the training personnel and officers of each regiment. The names are listed. He looked deeply into my eyes and said that the information he emphasized information can be obtained from these 2 files. I stole these files from a clerk's closet. I will go now and come here before 7 in the morning to take these files from you. You will find that I have committed a serious crime by extracting these files and could face a long sentence if caught. I have taken all this risk just for my sister's marriage. I consoled him and said that these files were not under your protection. If anyone comes to know about them, the concerned clerk will be caught and you will take them back tomorrow morning. I took a quick look at the files and found that they contained valuable information for us. In a file, the numbers of all the regiments that came for training after the War of 1971, the number of officers and men on which tanks were trained, and then where they went back. All these details were recorded. The second file was very thick. It contained the names, ranks, numbers, and medical facilities provided to the soldiers of each regiment. In this way, the list and rank of officers and other details were recorded. After looking at the files, I realized how important they were. I immediately decided that instead of copying the details of these files, why not send these 2 files to Pakistan? I was sure that my senior colleagues would jump at this achievement. When they got the original files, I immediately packed up, paid the hotel bill, and left for the bus stand. Now, I was a bit nervous that this game of God-willed success might not go wrong. So I was sure that Ashok would understand a lot about me by not finding me in the hotel in the morning. But since he himself was involved, he would not tell anyone about me. Aduz and the camp commandant would not be in any way suspicious of me, nor Shyam. Cautiously, as I walked from the hotel, I informed the reception clerk that I was going to Bombay immediately on account of an affair. If anyone asks you, tell them this. At the bus station, it was learned that a bus has just left the station and will stop near the canal bridge to take passengers. I took 2 cycle rickshaws from the base, sitting on one with the luggage and the other with himself. He told them to walk at full speed towards the canal bridge. I told them that I would give both of them 50-50 rupees if they would deliver me to the canal before the departure of the bus. In the lure of 50 rupees, they gave the cycle rickshaws a motorcycle rickshaw speed. Bus was still standing on the city bridge. I took the ticket and sat on the seat and started praying to reach the safe place before any of them. The bus started bumping along the rutted road and reached Jangabad after a journey of about 5 hours. There was about an hour left for the arrival of the Delhi-bound vehicle. I purposely took the Thar ticket and went to an empty and dark place while waiting for the vehicle. The train arrived on time, and I grabbed an empty seat. At that time, I was totally blank-minded. Only one thing was covering the heart and mind: that these files should reach Pakistan as soon as possible. I think it is important to write one thing here, that my agency works by going very deep into the enemy country and working to the last corner. While the field investigation unit of the division posted on the border tries to get information about the divisions of the enemy on the other side of the border, are through these files as far as Enemy Art Division Dependent Brigade 10 is concerned, who trained their regiments, who trained their tanks. After the War of 71, everything was clear as day regarding supplies to the regiments, and the work of the field investigation units became very easy. As the train moved towards Delhi, I became normal that I was out of the danger zone. Although the whole of India was a danger zone for me. But getting out of Ahmednagar safely with such important information and classified files was just like getting out of a snake's burrow. It was now more than 24 hours since the time of departure, and it was dawn time. When the car reached Delhi, I took a taxi and went straight to Lodi Hotel and booked a room. It continued until dawn. Then, after having breakfast, called Caro Nation Hotel, the fellow with the transmitter was asked to meet him at a restaurant in Connaught Palace at 4 p.m. The welfare of the rest of the colleagues was not asked on the phone because they were staying in the hotel as strangers. Only asked this if everything else is fine, and he said yes. I kept thinking of Ashok, how forced he was to take the risk, and what would happen to him if his officers found out about his actions. With this thought I collapsed. The scenes of more than extreme atrocities by the Indian Army and the Mukti Bahini against the innocent civilians and soldiers of East Pakistan flashed through my mind like a fast film. Of the 2 million wounds that had been inflicted on our hearts and our souls, I had only healed one each. And at the same time I had been given the maxim that all things are fair in war and love. And that our agency was a maxim, that we fight in peace and see the results of our war during the war. And I was in a state of war at that time. When I arrived at the restaurant in the evening, the fellow with the transmitter was already there. I briefly told that I have successfully returned from my mission. I asked about the rest of the colleagues, and he said that in your absence, we have collected a lot of useful information, all of which we want to tell you about our work. I told him that the other 3 and you would come to this restaurant the next day right at that time. At this time, the most important and necessary task is to send the message to the transmitter. Have you tried a test connection to transmitter from your hotel? He replied in the affirmative. I told him that now let's go to the hotel. I will write the message and transmit it in front of me. We both reached the hotel together. The rest of the colleagues did not even know, and we entered the transmitter room. The room was closed carefully. This room was in the corner on the 2nd floor of the hotel. We opened the windows. My partner took out the transmitter and started activating it with the room's buckle. I wrote a message saying that apart from urgent mail, I have sent 2 very important files. Send 2 couriers instead of 1. The old courier meet me and second cover him. When this message was given and the reply message received was also received, I was relieved. During this time, I sent not 1 but tens of secret messages to Pakistan. Each one had a different code word, and also the answer it was different for was told. I may have written somewhere before that. Extremely. The use of transmitters was allowed only for necessity, and for amateur, and for a very short period of time. Indian agencies also knew that messages were being transmitted from India to Pakistan. They may have had access to one of our dual frequency. Therefore, extreme caution had to be taken in using the transmitter. India has such devices that could detect the location of the transmitter. After sending the message, I came to the restaurant and told the fellow with the transmitter to tell the 3 of them to reach there in half an hour. He told me that we have been introduced to each other in the dining hall, where we are staying in the 4 hotels as people from different backgrounds. And this introduction has turned into a friendly greeting, and we often meet not only in the lobby and restaurant, but also give a few minutes break. They also go out together. In half an hour, all 5 of us gathered in a restaurant of Connaught Palace. First of all, I briefed them that I had returned to them with my success and my mission. Then I took back the charge of the group leader from the fellow with the transmitter and asked him to return his work in my absence. Then took the charge of the lead and asked them about the brief report of their progress in my absence. The biggest news told by the youths is that they have found a 3-room house in Mahalla Farashkhana, Old Delhi, which is owned by a Muslim, and the second floor of this 2-story house is vacant for rent. Staying too long in a single hotel can make hoteliers suspicious. There are Muslim houses on 2 sides and in front of the house. We have told the landlord that we are Muslims and are staying in a hotel in Delhi on business. A meeting was held, as we have to come to Delhi often and stay for a long time, so all 4 of us have decided to rent a house. Homeowner has agreed, rent and advance received. Only your permission is required. I like the suggestion that staying as Hindus, and especially staying in the hotel for a long time, not only makes them suspicious, but in fact, there is a possibility of such a mistake which can reveal his permanent identity as a Muslim. We will read that I have inadvertently made 2 or 3 mistakes, due to which I have been caught by the enemy. I allowed them to rent the house. Another achievement he achieved was that by conducting static and mobile surveillance outside the Indian Army Chief's headquarters, he had traced the office positions and residences of a few civilian personnel working at the headquarters. This very important information could prove very useful in future missions. Trained soldiers are very careful, but civilian employees are just as reckless as our civilian employees, and are relatively easy to control. He also gave me some other information, and after about an hour of meeting, we went our separate ways. I met them 2 days later at the same place. Said in these 2 days, they had to rent a house and shift. Thank you so much for watching our video. This is real story of Pakistani spy Abu Shuja Abu Wakr, the man who served in India as a spy agent in the cover of Open Tea Trader. If you have no subscribed, then subscribe our channel now and press the bell icon so you never miss any update of this story. If you liked the video, please give it a like, comment below to let us know your opinion. We will meet you again with another episode. Till then, have a good care of yourself.